I'm going to start the conference by I'm very proud to call her a leading woman, Arabic woman worldwide. She's a true leader. She's a director of scientific research at the Kingdom of Bahrain in higher education. She's highly qualified. She got a PhD from Brunel. She's very specialized in very important topics, and she is being known across the Middle East or across the world in her work in terms of policy, in terms of how government deal with scientific research. So I would like to introduce Dr. Farzana Al-Maraghi. She is the scientific research director for the Kingdom of Bahrain. Dr. Farzana, if you can unmute yourself, and I'm already giving you the share, and the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Alam, for this introduction and for inviting us to this prestigious event. Actually, it's our pleasure to join you and and to hear and listen from my colleagues. I'm sure I will learn a lot today. If you allow me, I share my presentation. I have a few slides just to share with you. Okay, then. So.
Yes, we can see it. Just make it as bigger display. Yes.
Okay, sure. So,
yes, perfect.
Is it clear with you now?
Perfect. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'll take a few minutes. I know we are allowed 10 to 15 minutes. So I'll take a few minutes to just to remind us. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with the indicators of Arab research compared to the world, but I think we need to start with a few figures to remind us how the Arab research is doing compared to the world. So here are the main areas. I'll talk about the Arab research indicators and then a few slides on what have been done regarding COVID-19 research. And then I'll take Bahrain as an example. I know that most Arab countries have similar, let's say, challenges or obstacles or research environment. More or less, plus or minus, it differs a bit, but in general, we have the same research environment generally. So I'll take Bahrain as an example. So let's start with Arab research indicators compared to the world. So I think we all know that most of the shares of the R&D expenditure comes from two areas in the world. Almost 90% comes from either west or east, so far west or far east. So it's North America and Western Europe and East Asia and the Pacific. This is the 90% almost of the expenditure on research, while Arab countries contribute to only 2% of the overall world expenditure on research. If we want to look into the percentages of the GDP, again, the Arabs are 0.61% of the GDP spending on research, while it is 2 point something in other parts of the world. So these show how research the expenditure on research, how it's compared to other countries. So again, here are some countries, how much they spend on research, but we cannot see the Arab countries here because it's very much less. Regarding the publication, scientific and technical journals or articles, the Arab is contributing only to 2% of the overall world papers. There are 2.5 million, so that's 98% from the world and 2% only from the Arab countries. If we want to see the growth, then starting 2000 until 2019, let's say, or 18, we can see that the world publication is growing in millions, while the Arab countries is very slowly growing, very slowly growing. SIR classification for academic research-related institutions, we can see the first Arab university appeared in this classification is King Saud University, and it ranked 165 over the world. And here is a list of the 10 highly ranked Arab universities, which started from 165 compared to the world ranking. This graph shows how institutions are distributed by the research output in 2021 as per the SIR ranking. This is for all regions and countries. If you can see, the green dots are for the universities and the red ones are for the companies. We start with the USA, China, France, and so on. So here are the percentiles. You can see we can see a lot of red companies, red dots are there, and there's a huge contribution. So this is for the world. If we move to the Arab countries, we can see it's very, very few and mostly within the universities. So the research has happened mostly within the universities. Egypt is number one, and then Saudi Arabia, Algeria, Iraq, Morocco, and so on. So, and if we want to see the percentiles here, again, companies do not appear really very clearly. So Arab nation contribution to the world's COVID research. For example, in the introduction, Professor Alam talked about Saudi Arabia ranked as first in the Arab world. We can see the contribution of Saudi Arabia has been ranked 14th internationally for its COVID-19 university research, rising from its previous 17th ranking according to the database of the Web of Science. And 84% of those researchers are accounted for the Saudi universities. They had 915 scientific publications related to the pandemic. So this is about Saudi Arabia. If we, there is another piece of research comparing the Arab region contribution to global COVID-19 research. So for the period between December 2019 and March 2021, the search for publication was conducted in Scopus related to COVID-19. There is 143,975 publication and 6,131 documents are from the Arab countries. So that's 4.26 of the global research output regarding COVID-19 were done by the Arab countries. So here are the different classifications, whether it's a journal, review article, or letters, or others. Saudi Arabia comes the first, and then followed by Egypt, and then United Arab Emirates. After standardization of population size, we see Saudi Arabia first, and then UAE, Lebanon, as ranked in terms of the COVID-19 related research. The collaboration were mostly with researchers from the United States and United Kingdom. The main research lines were public health and epidemiology, immunology, and pharmaceutical research, science, symptoms, and so on. So this is regarding the COVID-19 related research in the Arab countries. Also, Arab women scientists advancing scientific research amidst to the pandemic. This was hosted by the UNESCO event for L'Oreal Prize. So Arab women scientists participated in the COVID-related research. If we move to Bahrain and some related indicators to the GCC. During the 2014-2019 scholarly output, we had in Bahrain 3,538 scholarly output in Scopus, 2,861 authors, and the citation count was almost 40,000 and 11.1 citation per publication. And the world, the field-weighted citation impact was 2.35. Here, there are some positive indicators that there was an increase in the number of publications in Scopus by 67%, increase in number of authors. The average weight was more than the world average. If we look into the trend, we can see there is a growth. However, comparing this to some GCC countries which are little bit related in size. We didn't compare with Saudi Arabia because the size is too different, but comparing with Oman and Kuwait, still in Oman and Kuwait, there are much more publications and all are growing. Inside Bahrain, if we want to compare the institutions, University of Bahrain has the highest. Again, the size matters. Then comes Arabian Gulf University. However, we can see that the citation for Arabian Gulf University is very much higher than almost all other countries. That's 50.3 per publication. Per subject, and interestingly, medicine is the strongest research in Bahrain. So even in terms of the quality and citation, and in terms of the quantity. So 22.6% of the overall publication in Bahrain is in medicine, and then it comes engineering, and then computer science. So science in general, science and engineering are the most shares in Bahrain. So again, if we check the field-weighted citation impact, again, medicine has the highest field-weighted citation impact. That's more than 4, and again, highest number of publication, and then engineering, computer science, and so on. If we want to compare Bahrain to the Arab countries, so Bahrain's publication top 10 most cited is 9.2% only, while it's 12 in the Arab countries, and then the citation is 14.2, while it's 20.4 in the Arab countries. The collaboration is with Saudi Arabia, United States, United Kingdom, India, Egypt, Malaysia, and United Arab Emirates. Here are some interesting figures about the indicators of for research in Bahrain, and as I mentioned, this is somehow similar in a few other countries. So, for example, research accounts for science or STEM students or STEM research mostly. If we look into the figures, we have very little proportion of students in STEM education, science, mathematics, and engineering. So most of students go to business administration, law, and others. Total expenditure on R&D in Bahrain is growing. However, it's not as what we wish. So the funding is another challenge. So it was 5.7 million BD raised to 7.2. Number of collaborative research projects with the private sector, that's very important. Again, it's low, and these might be very minor projects. Number of research projects funded by regional international resources growing. However, still we're looking for better funding. Number of joint projects with regional international institutions, again growing. So a Kingdom of Bahrain effort in terms of the pandemic. During the pandemic, there were 138 publications, 39 only COVID related projects. We have RCSI, when we talk about private higher education institutions only. We had a meeting last week or a couple of weeks ago with all presidents of private sector higher education institutions, and they mentioned several research papers published, and we have the Royal College for Surgery in Bahrain. They published several papers, the banking sector, several universities. There are 4 book chapters published. We have several research projects. A clinical research center is to be established, and several projects are going on, and in terms of COVID. So what we talked about shows us a little bit about the status of research in Bahrain. So in the Gulf region and Bahrain generally, so in Bahrain specifically, the expenditure on research in Bahrain compared to the GDP is 0.04. Unfortunately, compared to the other GCC countries, it's lower. Still, we're doing much lower than other parts of the world. Here are some strengths and weaknesses when we started doing the research strategy for Bahrain. We work with the Stanford Research Institute. We found that there are some weaknesses and some strength in the research area in Bahrain. So the culture needs to be improved, the funding needs to be improved, and I think we all share similar ideas. So strategic direction and leadership is needed, scientific infrastructure, laboratory equipment, test beds, and so on. Expanded societal understanding of the value of research. Most of the research happens in the Arab countries and Bahrain as well. It's only for promotion, and it's not connected to the real priorities of the country or of the world, or for the well-being, or for the private sector as well. So a stronger linkage and collaboration needed with international parties, with the private sector, with the industry, to solve real problems and to move to the knowledge-based economy that my colleague from Kuwait, I'm sure, will share his experience with us in this regard. So we ended up with a few strategic objectives. We need to establish a national research governance infrastructure, strengthening the research capacity, strengthening the collaboration with international entities, and improve the public awareness and address the national research priorities. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't take so long, and I'm trying my best to be within the allowed time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Farzana. That was very, very good, and a very good start as well, and well precise, well documented.
So please remember, if we all help and do a little bit, it will make a big difference.